Hey everyone, I'm So Stacks a lot and wicked welcome to my channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day and in good health and good spirits. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this coin, and we're going to take a journey through history together to 1943 Nazi-occupied Norway. It's a neat coin. It's one of the few coins from Nazi-occupied countries that I've seen doesn't have a swastika on it, so that's an interesting thing. But in order to, I'm going to set this right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can check that out, and I'm going to throw some pictures all the way back from 1943 of what we're talking about in this video. So now let's take a journey back to 1943, Nazi-occupied Norway. But to get to 1943, we got to go back to 1940. So, and I'm gonna tell you about this coin right now. So this is a 1 ore Norway. The mintage on this was 33,030,000, and this is made of iron. It's interesting. It's actually a pretty coin, I think. So made of iron. Set this there. You can check that out, and I'll flip it around. So this isn't your typical World War II history. This is a story of the Norwegian underground resistance. Spies, sabotage, and commando raids were on the regular with this brave group of men and women. In April 1940, the Germans launched Operation Weiserberg to take Norway, and in 63 days, the Nazis took complete control of the country. During the resistance first challenge during this time was to smuggle the government officials to safety to England. The British just stood up the British SOE, the Special Operations Executive, and they fought alongside the Norwegian underground resistance fighters and later the American OSS in 1942, which comprised of not just US but many countries' people trained by the OSS and SOE. The OSS is now the CIA. The resistance used various tactics, including but not limited to sabotage, commando raids, assassinations, civil disobedience, and other forms of unarmed resistance. Intelligence and counterintelligence also, aka spying. Living amongst their enemy, the brave Norwegians with their genius tactics and quick thinking and training repeatedly inflicted blows to the Nazis in their war efforts. The resistance also helped maintain and assert the legitimacy of the exiled Norwegian government. Though not many major military battles happened in Norway, some of the most heroic and most essential operations happened here. Here's one of those stories. The Norce Hydro factory in a remote valley on the side of a cliff on the side of a mountain surrounded by other mountains and a deep valley gorge below. This was about as strategically perfect as it gets for a special German project. The factory was the only hydroelectric factory in the world. It produced a rare substance called deuterium oxide, aka heavy water. This is of particular interest to the Germans. The extremely rare substance was vital for the development of the atom bomb. The few people in the world in 1940 knew what an atom bomb was, or that it was even possible. Though Churchill and the British government knew very well that the world was in grave danger. October 18th, 1942, in near blizzard-like conditions, Norwegian commandos parachuted down and made a long trek on cross-country skis till they reached a remote cabin. They sent a radio message back to Britain. The operation begins. The small commando unit's first task was to set up a small aircraft landing field for gliders towed by bombers to be released from the bombers in the night so they could land, but that required clear skies, and it was cloudy and snowing with low visibility. Radio messages trying to warn England of the conditions failed. The aircraft passed over and disappeared. The British troops never arrived. One aircraft crashed into the side of a mountain. Survivors were found and executed. The small commando unit lived off the land for months, surviving in the mountains, waiting for opportunity to strike. They spent Christmas Eve together and even said it was pleasant. Though the opportunity hadn't arrived yet, the Nazi supply of heavy water was growing, making the Allies very nervous. On February 16, 1943, a second commando team specializing in explosives was sent to join their fellow commandos in the mountains. To reach the factory, they had to climb the side of an icy cliff because the only way in was a bridge patrolled 24/7 by Nazis. They had to then sneak into the factory unseen by guards. The explosives team would make it to the basement and attach the explosives on heavy water cells while the other team stood watching for the Nazis. While in the basement, they held a Norwegian worker at gunpoint while setting explosives charges, and the man even had the nerve to ask for glasses from the explosives team, and they actually stopped what they were doing and searched for his glasses and gave them to him and continued on with the mission. The men succeeded in their mission. They made it out of the factory safely, blowing up the factory, but within 6 months the factory was up and running again at full speed. The Allies then set in a daring massive bomb raid, destroying the buildings and killing people, but the heavy water production in the basement was unharmed. Then the Nazis made the decision. It gave the Norwegian commandos another chance. The Nazis decided to move the production to the safety of the German fatherland. The heavy water would be put on the railway and sent to Germany, where it would have to cross a lake by ferry. The ferry trip would take 2 hours. Not fully understanding the significance of the heavy water, the commandos sent a message to London that sinking the ferry would lose Norwegian civilian lives, and requested to abort the mission. Though the ferry was the only weak link in the travel to Germany, the mission had to be carried on, and England said the cost was still too great, and messaged back to carry on with the mission. The ferry is the only weak point in the trip. The Germans didn't post any guards on the ferry the night before. The team planted the explosives charges on the ferry boat, and after planting the charges, the commandos parted ways. One was even admitted to a hospital in Oslo. At 9:45 in the morning, the ferry embarked across the lake. 45 minutes later, right on time, the explosion took the ferry and many civilians and German troops to the bottom of the lake. Though the man that was admitted to the hospital, the Germans determined he could not have possibly been involved, and he returned to his normal job and extracurricular activity of fighting in the resistance underground. The Allies later found out that the Germans weren't as close as we had thought to producing the atom bomb, though it's important to know that the cost of the Germans having an atom bomb would have been too great no matter what. And it's also important to know that the commandos and only the highest of government officials understood and even knew what an atom bomb was or what it could have been capable of. So that was today's history. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the coin. and taking a journey back through history with me. I really enjoyed it. So, till next time, guys, stack 'em tall. Sir Sax-a-Lot out.